Hey golfers, Tony with Reactionary Golf. Hopefully that default fulcrum made sense on how to position the left hand. Now more importantly is what do we do with our right hand for right-handed golfers? How does this wrist extension and flexion really control the golf club? And if you look at Dr. Matthew Sweeney's work, you're going to show that, or he shows that, we saw a lot, over 1,500 degrees per second of extension and deflection type motion compared to what we saw in deviation from our left wrist. So really when we take a look at what's important in the golf swing, we're really going to see that this extension and flexion is really what's taking the speed of our arms, the momentum of our body, and applying it to the golf club. So this is the most critical component in really controlling the club face and controlling where that club is getting back to the ball. Are we hanging on to that, keeping a little bit of extension in the ball, or are we letting that flexion take over? Which is okay, it just depends on what type of shot you want to create. So one of the things that have come up in this analogy of hammering, and some people have had questions with, is all this makes sense. Understand it. If we come in at different angles, it bends the nail, bends the ball flight, great. But I seem to hold the hammer differently than when I grip my golf club. And there's a couple reasons why some people may feel that is, if we take a look at the design of the hammer, the handle's different than the grip of a golf club. It's a little bit thicker. But what we want to take a look at is biomechanically is where do we have this joint of our pointer finger and where do we have the meat of our palm to really control that. So when we take a look at our claw, I really want to make sure that we have good support in order to strike that, in this case, hammer to the nail or golf club into the ball. If I get it too much on top, okay, we really can't, I'm doing it, it's too weak. I really can't put that force into it. I can move it, but there's not much force. If I get a little bit too much under, okay, yeah, I can feel it still hinging, but it's still not strong. And so you kind of want to find what gives you the maximum hinging, horizontal flexion and extension, in this case extension, the backswing, flexion coming through. And I notice that my right hand's a touch, a little bit more under this hammer. Now the question is, does that apply to the same with the golf grip? So let's go. Okay guys, here's a great example of that wrist extension in the backswing. So as that club goes back, you see that face stays nice and square to its path. And that wrist extension, you can see that right wrist folding back on itself. That's the extension right there. And obviously then that continues to go back right up to the top. From there, as the arms and the body are moving into the downswing, we're seeing that it's more of a horizontal adduction delivering that club along with that right wrist extension. Because even though the right arm is bent, it's not the straightening of the elbow that creates the speed. It's actually the forward, horizontal, diagonal adduction motion, which is producing speed this way. And that's the force we want into the back of the ball going that way. So from there, everything now just extends into flexion, and there's the full release. Okay. So what I want to do is take and now apply that to the golf club. So we got our Foresight HMT GC2 unit. I want to go ahead and put my right hand on a different alignments to see where I can maximize this type of flexion extension and the small forward swing. And then we'll get a little bit into the arm swing. So what happens when I put my right hand a little bit more on top? I'm going to start out, just work off some small pitch shots. Now this happens to be an 8-iron, but I'm just going to do small pitch shot. Right hand's on top, just working it back and through. And what I'm trying to do is get a feel for what is the most comfortable and what produces a straight shot. I mean, that was pretty straight, but it felt really awkward. And I'll take a look. And the ball was dead straight. And again, we're only hitting pitch shots, so it only went about 60 yards. But that for me was very uncomfortable. I didn't like the feeling for that. It created a path a little bit out to in. So for me, that right hand got more on top. That kind of produced a little bit more of an out to in path. Now, what happens when I kind of put it a little bit more under? So if I put my right hand a little bit more under, okay, what does that give me? And again, it still feels really awkward. And again, I'm going to do my best to hit the shot straight. And I can see that shut down the club face. So when I put my right hand under, instinctively that wants to get back to our more of a neutral position. And what is neutral? Well, if you take a look, my arms are kind of hanging down here. Now, golf swing is a learned skill, so we can adjust that. But we're going to see that our palms are facing in a little bit. And that's the reason why I feel like instead of my hand being that knuckle being to the side, which would make it a little strong, it feels like it's a little bit more on top. But a lot of that has to do with handle size. So on that one, club path was still pretty straight, but that ball went way left. So better path, only 0.3 out to in, but that club face was closed. So now I'm going to go to what I feel is a little bit more comfortable, and the best way for me to feel that wrist motion is right up here. So where do I want to place my hand on this club to produce this maximum? You can see I really struggle with that. Okay, I can do that, but I have, again, look at a tendency to shut down that club face. So now I feel like this is a little bit easier to go. And that shot was a nice little draw, little baby draw. Again, we're only hitting the ball like I'm hitting this one 100 yards. So when we take a look at that, we can see that the face was square. Path was good. Let's see what our path numbers are. Yeah, path was only 0.3 into out, so that's what we're looking for. Side spin was only 383 RPM, so our tilt axis was really small. I think it was only 0.2 left. So that's our nice little baby draw right there. So for me, play around with different grip alignments, and we have to be careful based on the size of your hands, size of your grip. All this could be a little bit different for you. And this is where you want to personalize it, tweak it up, and find what's comfortable for you. Because if you have an overlap, let's say I play with an overlapping grip, so that's going to put my grip into a certain angle. If I go interlocking, I can tell you it's totally different. And that actually puts it now a little bit more behind it. So because my hand is a little bit deeper, so we have to make sure we're consistent with all the variables that create those different alignments that produce your best shot. But the biggest thing is to make sure you understand your wrist extension to flexion and be able to control that, because that is our key to club head speed. So keep working on that wrist extension to flexion. Find your optimum grip to play your best golf. Thanks for watching. Check out Inside the Golf Lab for a lot more of this detailed information. Join and become one of our lab tech members. Right now we have golfers from around the world, and it's been great to kind of get some feedback on how well they've been progressing in their development of their golf game, all through obviously online instructions. So thanks for watching. We'll talk to you soon.